The fleet hung above Earth like a metal reef, dozens of kilometers wide, bristling with weapons, each vessel casting long shadows across the blue planet below. The Vengeance of Unity, heart of the Vorthri invasion force, hovered in geostationary orbit, its hull glowing with the soft pulse of activated shields. Inside, corridors buzzed with motion. Troops marched. Strategists calculated. Commanders rehearsed a victory already presumed inevitable. Karzun Mol watched it all from the observation deck. Behind him, officers laughed and placed bets on how long Earth would last. He said nothing. His second set of eyelids blinked reflexively, shielding his sensitive vision from the glow of Earth's atmosphere. He'd been here before. Not above it, on it. 40 years ago. An off-record reconnaissance op near the Himalayas. His squad landed quietly. It ended in blood and flame. He still remembered the eyes of the human boy who'd triggered the trap that killed half his team. Not hate in them. Not fear. Just cold calculation. "You're quiet, old one." Karzun didn't turn. He knew the voice, Captain Veller, one of Trella's sycophants. Young, polished, eager to be quoted in military journals. "Reflecting," Karzun said. "On what?" "We'll be home by the next orbital cycle. These humans still burn fossil fuel." Vela laughed, voice tinged with arrogance. "They don't burn it for survival. They burn it for war." Vela raised a brow crest. "Your fear of them is legend. It's not fear. It's memory." Inside the War Council chamber, a holographic Earth rotated slowly above the central platform. Target zones pulsed red: Beijing, New York, Moscow, Lagos. Predictive conquest timelines hovered beside each, displaying hours, not days. Commander Trelvarn stood tall in his ceremonial armor, its reflective plates more suited for spectacle than battle. "This campaign is formality," he said to the gathered officers. "A display of strength. We do not crush Earth, we absorb it. Efficiently. Precisely." A round of murmured approval followed. Karzun stepped forward. Silence fell, part out of respect, part out of morbid curiosity. He hadn't addressed the council in decades. "They are not what they seem," he began. "This species, humanity, has mastered disorder. They weaponize failure. When you think they're broken, they're shifting. When they retreat, they're flanking." Trell frowned. "The incident you survived was isolated. Primitive resistance. It wasn't primitive. It was planned. Improvised. Brutal. You call it disorganized, but it's a language. And you're deaf to it." A younger commander leaned in, smirking. "What language? Chaos?" "Exactly," Karzun replied. "And they speak it fluently." Trell waved a hand. "Enough. Your age has made you superstitious. The fleet launches in 2 cycles. The planet will be pacified within the week." Karzun's jaw tightened, but he nodded and stepped back. They would not listen. Not yet. The launch decks roared with energy. Rows of dropships lined up like bullets in a chamber. Vorthri soldiers, tall, armored, genetically enhanced, filed into formation. They joked, shared rumors of human weakness, compared weapon specs. Karzun observed from a distance, standing with his hands clasped behind his back. He accessed the surveillance stream from the intelligence node. Earth's data grid was fractured, but not silent. Encrypted military transmissions flickered beneath civilian noise. Power surges mapped in patterns too deliberate to be natural. Empty cities. Heat signatures underground. He leaned closer. "They're preparing," he murmured. "Not running. Waiting." A lieutenant beside him glanced over. "Waiting with what? Rocks and tanks? Have you ever seen a desperate species fight?" Karzun asked. "They don't care how. Just that you die first." Later that cycle, as Earth rotated into full planetary daylight, Trell stood at the helm. "Initiate Operation Binding Chain," he ordered. "Begin atmospheric entry." The sky lit with flame as dropships pierced the upper atmosphere, streaking downward like fallen gods. Karzun didn't watch the spectacle. He watched the data feed. Civilian comms died in synchronized regions. Traffic grids shut down. City sectors went dark, not from destruction, but from deliberate power rerouting. Then he saw it, one silent frequency pulsing like a heartbeat, encrypted, undetected by the others. A message repeating in tight intervals. He isolated the signal, deciphered the redundancy pattern, and played it aloud. A human voice, female, cold and clear. "Let them come." Curzon stood alone on the upper observation ring, looking down at Earth. The planet turned slowly beneath him, serene and blue and deceptive. The stars behind it seemed dimmer. He tapped his comm link. Personal log. Date, 2684.0703. A pause. Then his voice again, softer now. "They think I fear Earth. That I see ghosts. Perhaps I do. But ghosts don't lay traps. Ghosts don't ambush. I faced men with no armor, no tech, and no mercy. They had one thing we've forgotten: resolve." He looked again at the glowing surface of the planet. "They won't fight fair. They'll fight to remember. Fight to humiliate. And when we finally listen, it'll be too late." The transmission ended. The first wave touched ground. The feed blinked to static. Chicago was quiet. Not peaceful, quiet like a hunted jungle just before something screams. Captain Vella's drop teams swept through the vacant streets. Their boots thudded against cracked concrete. Cars were abandoned in place, doors left ajar. Buildings stood intact, but every window was dark, every power line cut. It was eerie, lifeless, unnatural. "Scanners show no movement," Vela said into his comms. "City's dead." Proceeding to Sector 2. They were wrong on all counts. On a rooftop 2 blocks away, a pair of human soldiers tracked the squad through an improvised scope rigged to a repurposed telescope. One of them chewed gum. The other adjusted the detonator. 2 minutes, whispered Corporal Rains. "Want to bet if they notice before or after the sidewalk swallows them?" Sergeant Mira gave a dry smile. "I bet they never see anything again." Below, the sidewalk exploded. The lead Vorthree vanished in a column of flame and shattered pavement. The rest screamed as razor wire netting burst upward from beneath their feet, slicing exposed joints. A second blast rocked the street, throwing the survivors into building walls. Rains clicked the detonator twice more. Across 4 blocks, manhole covers burst open and released swarms of quadcopters, civilian drones retrofitted with explosives and guided by machine vision. "Welcome to Earth," Mara muttered, shouldering her rifle. Curzon watched the chaos from orbit. The command deck was silent. Live feeds from the first wave had turned erratic, glitching, fragmenting, cutting out. He recognized the signs. Communications failure. Loss of unit cohesion. Tactical blindness. He leaned in, analyzing. No centralized resistance. No standing military. Just traps. Adaptive, fast. "Bring up Sector 8 footage," he barked. The screen showed Berlin. Columns of Imperial walkers pushed through Brandenburg Gate, just before the street cracked apart and swallowed them. Homemade rail guns, built from magnetic train parts, shredded the exposed underbellies. Fire consumed the perimeter. "They're not defending," Curzon said to no one. "They're hunting." Commander Trell paced the bridge like a caged animal, eyes fixed on the failing projections. Dozens of red tactical overlays blinked out. Sensor feedback. Local interference. "They're just delaying the inevitable," he snapped. "No, sir," replied Strategist Delarn, hesitating. "This is coordinated. They're disabling our infrastructure, jamming command relays. Our units are cut off and isolated. They're primitives with drones. Primitives don't rewrite targeting AI mid-operation," Elarn said carefully. Trell turned livid. "Pull the reserve force. Prepare for orbital support strikes. We will erase their cities if they continue this insolence." Curzon stepped forward. "You destroy what you don't understand. That's not strategy. It's panic. You've had your warnings," Trell spat. Now keep your silence. Karzun didn't respond. He simply walked out. Downtown Lagos burned. An Imperial staging post had turned into a trap, the walls wired with pressure explosives, the ceilings seeded with shrapnel. Human resistance struck as the post collapsed, storming the site in 3 minutes and vanishing into the tunnels. Colonel Maya Trent watched the footage from a captured Vor-3 tablet. Around her, her team coordinated airstrikes with voice commands and tapped into the enemy's logistics feed. Human forces operated in cells, self-sufficient and mobile. If one went dark, 3 more picked up the slack. They thought we'd panic, Maya said. They thought we'd run. She reached into a locker and pulled out a repurposed plasma rifle. They never fought anyone who enjoys fighting back. Orbit sighed, panic brewed. Entire legions failed to report in. Civilian centers marked for occupation had become sinkholes of resistance. Improvised IEDs, kinetic booby traps, heat-tracking mines. Worse, Imperial tech began failing. Some soldiers' armor systems were hijacked mid-battle, locking them in place. Then came the broadcasts. Screens across the fleet flickered to static, then shifted. A single human face appeared, Colonel Maya Trent. Attention invaders. You violated sovereign Earth territory. You came thinking we were fractured. That we'd kneel. Her voice was calm, surgical. Instead, we're united by one truth: if we burn, you burn with us. Fleet officers rushed to cut the transmission. It stayed on. Someone had bypassed their entire encrypted network. A backdoor no one saw coming. Karzun smiled grimly. They've turned your systems into weapons. Hours later, news broke. Commander Trell's transport shuttle was obliterated en route to a forward command base in Kazakhstan. No survivors. Fleet command was headless. The War Council scrambled for leadership. Amid the confusion, a single voice gained traction. Karzun. He didn't campaign. He didn't request command. He simply knew what to do. In a meeting of remaining strategists, he pointed to planetary schematics. Forget occupation. We evacuate all surface-level assets, establish safe orbit, and prepare for negotiated withdrawal. Withdraw? One admiral spat. We don't run from savages. You're not running, Karzun said. You're surviving. Earth isn't a battlefield. It's a trap you walked into. The room fell quiet. He added, This isn't conquest. This is punishment. In orbit, retreat ships began preparing. Surface units were ordered to fall back to extraction zones. But most of those zones no longer existed. Human forces had already mapped the retreat paths. They were waiting. Imperial squads attempting exfil in Paris were caught between collapsing bridges and redirected sewage floods. In Sao Paulo, a full platoon drowned in an electrified water channel. In Cairo, retreating craft were painted with heat flares and targeted by their own orbital support systems, hacked from Earth's surface. Karzun's orders saved some. But not many. Later that night, alone in the silent briefing room, Karzun reviewed casualty reports. He stopped at a line item: Drop Team Epsilon, status, eliminated. Captain Vela. Gone. He stared at the line. Not with triumph. Not even sadness. Just understanding. He tapped his log again. Entry 2684.0704. Day 1. Operation failed. First wave routed. Human losses minimal. Imperial command decapitated. Pause. They don't fight to win. They fight to warn. This was never about resisting occupation. This was about making sure no one ever tries again. He closed the report. Outside, Earth continued to spin in silence. The war wasn't over. But it was finished. From orbit, Earth shimmered beneath cloud banks of ash and smoke. The Galactic fleet, once proud and arrogant, now drifted in battered silence. Hulls were scorched. Communications were fractured. Commanders whispered instead of barking orders. No one dared say it, but they all knew. They had lost. Karzun stood before the War Council, or what remained of it. 4 surviving senior officers, 3 junior tacticians, and a nervous communications aide filled the dark chamber. No holograms. No projections. Just static and fear. "We can't hold orbit," said Admiral Rovak, voice strained. "Our forward satellites have been hijacked. Docking routes are unsafe. Earth's targeting systems are mapping us in real time. They've taken our own tools and turned them against us," muttered a younger officer. "They didn't take them," Karzun corrected. "They understood them. Faster than we did." Rovak slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Then we bombard the planet. Glass their cities. Turn the dirt to slag." Karzun's eyes narrowed. "You want to burn what already burned us?" Silence. "I'm initiating contact with their command," Karzun said. "Before this becomes worse. No authorization." "I don't need it," he cut in. "There's no command left to stop me." They met in Antarctica. A neutral site. No cities. No traps. A former human research outpost, long abandoned, resurrected by satellite beacon. The air was knife-sharp. Winds howled against the steel hull of the Vorthuri dropship as it landed. Karzun stepped out alone. Across the frost-lined plateau, a human transport hovered down. Its door opened with a hiss, and from within stepped Colonel Maya Trent. Her uniform was mismatched, black tactical gear over a winter parka. Her eyes were dark and unreadable. Neither of them offered a hand. "Colonel Trent," Karzun said. "General Mole," she replied dryly. "Or is it advisor now? I go where logic fails." She gave him a long look. "You warned them?" "Yes." "And they ignored you?" "As is tradition." She nodded once. "Come inside." Inside the base, heat hummed through old walls. They sat across a makeshift table, between them a steaming pot of coffee and a rusted datapad. "No demands?" Maya said. "Not yet. I'm not here to negotiate territory." "What then?" Karzun looked her in the eyes. "Survival. For both of us." Her jaw tightened. "Funny. From what I've seen, you weren't expecting to lose." "I wasn't expecting you to teach us how to lose." She poured 2 cups. Didn't ask if he wanted one. Just slid it over. Karzun stared at it. "We underestimated everything." "Not everything," Maya said. "Just everyone." They spoke for hours. Strategy. Failures. Culture. He told her of the Empire, its endless expansion, its belief in efficiency, in order, in clean conquest. She spoke of Earth, its mess, its chaos, its resilience. "You tried to win a war by controlling the battlefield," she said. "But Earth is the battlefield. Uncontrollable. Unpredictable. That's how we live." Karzun nodded slowly. "Your people adapt to pain as if it were air. We do more than adapt. We weaponize it." He leaned back. "You never meant to repel us." She shrugged. "We didn't have to. You broke yourselves." Back aboard Vengeance of Unity, Karzun accessed restricted files, recordings, logs, strategic failures, sensor archives. Then he transmitted them to Earth. Every document outlining civilian strikes. Every atrocity covered up by Trell. Every plan to exploit the planet's water, atmosphere, and population. He sent them directly to Maya. That night, she responded with coordinates. Not attack zones, extraction corridors. A corridor wide enough to allow safe retreat for remaining Vorthuri forces, under strict conditions. Karzun implemented the evacuation immediately. No debate. No press release. Just motion. Some officers called it surrender. Others called it salvation. On the final day of orbit, the last Vorthuri transport rose from the charred crust of northern Africa. Thousands had died. Thousands more would never speak of what they saw. Earth was left behind, unconquered, unbowed, and silent. Karzun remained on board the final command vessel. He stood at the helm, eyes fixed on the planet. "It's done," a junior officer said. Karzun didn't respond. He opened his comm link. Private channel. One final message to Maya. You fought like no species I've seen. You buried the Empire with traps and fire. But your victory was not in force. It was in fear. Not in what you did, but in what you made us become. If anyone comes after you again, they won't come for conquest. They'll come for revenge. Be ready. Farewell. He shut the channel. Weeks passed. Karzun was stripped of rank and exiled by the Empire. No trial. No charges. Just erasure. But not silence. On a quiet moon outside the formal borders, under the protection of a nameless human operative group, he lived in a quiet dome. No soldiers. No medals. Just memory. He spent his days writing. Not memoirs. Warnings. They called Earth a backwater. Then Earth taught the galaxy what desperation looks like. They called humans fragile. Then learned they don't break, they harden. We called it a war. They called it a message. One night, he stood outside his dome, staring at the sky. Earth wasn't visible from this world. But he saw it in every flicker of light. A voice behind him. Maya's, distorted through long-range comm. You were right, she said. About what? They won't forget. He paused. Neither will I.